A very concerning storm is developing in the United States, and this is going to bring the threat for a severe weather outbreak and potentially a tornado outbreak tomorrow across a large chunk of the United States, from Texas all the way back into areas like Georgia. In addition to that, we will also be tracking the potential for a huge Arctic blast in the first week of January and perhaps the return of winter storms. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about this concerning storm that'll be impacting the United States tomorrow and Sunday, and also what is ahead beyond this weekend. We'll begin with what's happening across the country this morning, and we'll begin with this right here, which is the remnants of what we had with our small-scale tornado outbreak yesterday in areas like Texas and as well as Louisiana. We end up having about 5 or 6 different tornadoes that have been confirmed thus far via radar and as well as via imagery, and we'll likely have that number increase a little bit throughout the day today as surveys are done. But this is now moving to the east. It will bring a little bit more severe weather today to the lower Mississippi Valley, mostly right near the Gulf Coast, where an isolated tornado and maybe some damaging winds will be possible. But that's not really what is going to be concerning over the next few days. Even though that this will be bringing some rain as it continues to move east, it'll actually be weakening. What's more concerning is what's going to be developing over near the Rocky Mountains over the next 24 hours. We are expecting a low pressure system to develop as we go into late Friday into Saturday. That'll eventually move into the southern plains, and then by late Saturday morning into the afternoon hours, we are expecting a trough to organize very quickly, and it'll bring the threat for severe weather to several states as we go into both Saturday and as well as into Sunday. Now, this storm is going to blow up very fast over the next 24 hours. This is what the jet stream looks like right now. Again, notice that negatively tilted trough that just brought severe weather yesterday will be moving into the Ohio Valley as we go throughout the daytime today, bringing some rainfall to those areas. But this is what it looks like as we go into Saturday. One of the biggest things that we're going to be looking at is a huge dip in the jet stream here, and also our trough axis being located right over Kansas and as well as Oklahoma. And as we go throughout the daytime hours, we are going to eventually see this turn into more of a negatively tilted trough, and this is also going to create a strong southwesterly flow across areas in the Dixie Alley and as well as the lower Mississippi Valley, which is only going to amplify the threat for severe weather on Saturday. And then eventually, as we go into Saturday night into Sunday morning, this continues to track to the north and east, and we may even have a little bit more severe weather on Sunday across areas near the mid-Atlantic region. Now let's talk more about the severe weather potential for the next few days, and we'll begin with today, which is Flying Fences Friday. We have a small marginal threat for Mississippi, Alabama, parts of Florida and Louisiana, mainly for just an isolated damaging wind risk, but we may see a brief tornado or two later this afternoon as the atmosphere will eventually destabilize. Tomorrow, though, is the big story. Tomorrow's the day that we think there could be a full-blown severe weather outbreak and perhaps even a tornado outbreak. Now, I do want to point out that yesterday we had a day 3 enhanced risk for severe weather for this particular event. That is the first time since May 26th of this year that we've had a day 3 enhanced risk issued by the Storm Prediction Center, and that's a pretty big deal because the last one that we had ended up actually turning into a moderate risk for severe weather in areas like the lower Midwest and as well as the Ohio Valley, and we ended up having several tornadoes that day, and we even had a long track tornado in Kentucky. Now, I'm not saying we're going to see a repeat of what we saw on May 26th with this particular event, because they are different, but I do think that tomorrow needs to be really paid attention to closely. And another big thing is that a lot of people are not really paying attention to severe weather at all right now, because it's not really a big talking point in December, but this is definitely a big deal. If you know any friends or family in this area, make sure that they are aware that there could be some severe storms tomorrow, and we may end up seeing potentially a few or even several tornadoes across the lower Mississippi Valley and the Dixie Alley. Now let's talk more about what the threat is for tomorrow. So we do have an enhanced risk for severe weather in eastern Louisiana, central and southern Mississippi, and back into western Alabama. This is also the first ever Alabama enhanced risk ever issued in the month of December, which is another rarity. And then also we have a slight risk for severe weather from Texas back into Alabama, and then also a marginal threat that goes from Texas back into western Georgia and even in parts of Tennessee. Now, the main concern for tomorrow will be damaging winds. We're expecting at least some scattered to numerous damaging winds between 60 to 75 miles per hour. The hail risk right now, I'm not too concerned about. There will be some large hail, but it's really not going to be the big concern. The tornado risk is what pops out a little bit more, because we have a hatched tornado risk that is in place for parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and as well as Alabama. And what this means is that we could see strong tornadoes tomorrow, which is EF2 plus tornadoes. The Storm Prediction Center has literally already said that a few strong tornadoes, EF2 plus, are possible tomorrow. So we need to watch this very closely tomorrow, and and there is a very high chance that we will be live on our channel covering this severe weather outbreak with several storm chasers. So if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below and click the bell icon so you're notified if and when we do go live. The tornado risk, though, does exist outside of that area. It's just a little bit lower. It goes all the way back into Texas and also back into much of Tennessee. Now, we are expecting several rounds of severe storms on Saturday, and so we're going to go ahead and check out the tornado parameter values and kind of give you an idea of where the highest tornado threat will be, and also where we're going to be seeing storms and when we'll be seeing storms. So beginning with the tornado parameter values as we go into Saturday morning, our first round of storms will likely fire off here in southern Louisiana and as well as southern Mississippi, where a couple or even a few tornadoes will be possible during the mid to late morning and into the early afternoon hours. Eventually, we'll have another round of storms firing off right around and just after lunchtime in East Texas. This will eventually move into Louisiana and southern Arkansas, and then eventually that'll move towards Mississippi. Our highest tornado parameter values are likely to be associated here in central and southern Louisiana right around sunset. But here's the thing, the HRRR in this case is indicating that we have a lot of rain and also a lot of storm activity well out in front of this area of thunderstorm activity, and if that ends up happening, the environment is going to be used up quite a bit, and then that means the tornado threat would naturally be a bit lower during the evening hours with this next round of storms. But if those storms don't really play a factor and there's not really many, then we'll end up having a more significant threat with that second round of storms. So beginning with the future radar, as we go into Saturday morning, our first storms will begin to fire up right around 7-8 in the morning. It's going to be a quick early morning here across the Houston area and as well as southwestern Louisiana. Most of these storms will begin as just normal, strong to isolated severe storms, but as we get closer to 10 to 11 in the morning, that tornado threat will start to increase, especially in central southern Louisiana and as well as southwestern Mississippi. As we go later into the afternoon hours, by 2 to 3 o'clock, we'll have that area of storm activity, the initial area, move to the north and east. Another threat for maybe a couple of tornadoes will exist out of our next batch of storms, and then the other batch of storms back over to the west will be mostly a wind threat, but there also will be the potential for a few tornadoes in there. And then eventually, as we get closer to sunset, we'll have that line of storms marching across Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas. A few more discrete cells will attempt to fire off out in front of that, and any discrete supercells that fire off in front of the line will be capable of producing a strong tornado risk. And really the biggest thing with Saturday is watching for where and when those discrete storms fire off, and then eventually as we get closer to midnight, these storms will continue to move towards Mississippi and eventually into western Alabama, where this threat is just going to continue in all nature. Now, as we go into the tornado parameter values further to the east, so across the Dixie Alley, you'll notice again, we'll have enough rotation. There's going to be very curved photographs and a lot of wind shear as we go throughout the day Saturday. So again, it's going to be a very favorable environment on Saturday. Definitely make sure you have a tornado action plan ready to go in multiple ways to receive alerts. Again, not everybody's going to see a tornado, but we do think there will at least be a few tornadoes across the Dixie Alley and the lower Mississippi Valley, perhaps even several tornadoes, and we may end up seeing a tornado outbreak here. Now, I do also want to mention that this event has a high ceiling, but it also has a relatively, I would say, low to medium floor, meaning that we might only see a couple or a few tornadoes tomorrow, and we might also see a dozen or 2 dozen tornadoes. There is a relatively high ceiling to this event. It's just going to depend a lot on how much convection we see and when it fires off. It could be messy. It also could be very clean on what happens. And again, we are still a little over 24 hours out, so details are going to change a little bit. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We'll continue to keep you posted with the latest updates on this particular event. Now, on the future radar here across areas in the Dixie Alley, again, a few storms possible today. Any of these here across parts of Mississippi and Alabama may end up producing a brief tornado, mostly just damaging winds. By tomorrow morning, things are relatively quiet. Things will ramp up during the mid to late afternoon hours. Again, several rounds of storms will be possible with lots of moisture streaming out of the Gulf of Mexico. Any storms that come out of the Gulf will be capable of producing a tornado risk. And then eventually, as we go into the late evening and into the early overnight hours, we'll likely continue to see the potential for a couple or even at least a few tornadoes across the Dixie Alley. Now, beyond today and tomorrow, we are going to be talking about several different cold and Arctic blasts as we go into early January. Our first one will just be after the new year, around January 1st and 2nd, where we're going to get at least one big shot of cold air for much of the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and the East Coast. And then eventually, as we go into the second week of January, we think we're going to get even another Arctic blast in the United States, and perhaps our most intense Arctic blast of winter thus far could come sometime around January 8th to 14th, and where that happens is uncertain, but we do think we're going to at least get one shot of intense against cold air, meaning that we could actually end up seeing some record-breaking low temperatures in parts of the United States. Now, in terms of the future radar for the next couple of weeks, we'll begin with what's happening this weekend. Again, big storm system moving through the Dixie Alley. This will eventually move into the Ohio Valley and as well as the Northeast as we go into Sunday, with plenty of rain, a little bit of snow as well in areas like Michigan. As we go into Monday into Tuesday, quick shot of snow across the Central Plains, mostly just rain though, as we go into New Year's Eve and New Year's Day for the Ohio Valley and as well as the Northeast. Eventually, as we go into Saturday into Sunday, which is again well over a week from now, we'll be talking about the potential maybe for some sort of winter storm in the United States. Where that happens and how much snow we see is very uncertain at this point. And then beyond that, things become very uncertain, but again, we'll continue to keep you posted with the latest, and again, we'll likely be live on the channel tomorrow, so make sure to subscribe down below and click the bell icon so you're notified if and when we do go live. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.